How have you been?
I've been really incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
yeah, yeah.
seeing the fruits of so many years of work and the people showing up to support the mission and how it's unfolding and really just trusting that everything is happening exactly as it's meant to.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your mission for the people that don't know who you are
Sure.
and what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of break it down in two different ways. I believe I have a purpose and a mission. My
Hmm.
mission is of Entheos Holistics, which
Okay.
is we are an entheogenic sanctuary. We are a spiritual sanctuary that holds the belief that God is only found by going within. And through 8 years of connecting with psychedelics and entheogens and these beautiful earth medicines, I got to reconnect to my own mission and my own connection to God through going within, which is what entheos means. It's the Greek root word of entheogen, and it literally means that God is found within. And our whole mission is to spread the practice of microdosing, which is, I believe, is a deeply spiritual practice of reconnecting with the self through the mind, the body, and the soul.
Hmm.
And through that reconnection of self, we get to remember that we are the divinity that was created to experience itself through all this realm. And that is what our belief system is, that nobody outside of us has the answer. All of the answers are found within each individual because your path is going to look much different than mine.
Mm.
And even breaking down that from a spiritual context and lens as well, it's like I don't believe spirituality is a belief system. I believe spirituality is a practice, which means it's meant to look different for you than it is to me,
Mm.
and that the end result of any spiritual practice is meant to connect us to the divine in a deeper way. And the beautiful thing is you get to define the divine, God, cosmos, universe, source, in a different way that resonates for you as well.
Mm.
We don't believe that there's a singular path. And on this path of remembering and rediscovering in many ways what the divine means to the self, we believe that microdosing is one of the most powerful catalysts in order to do that. And so the entire mission of Entheos Holistics, held within our spiritual sanctuary, is to bring these medicines to people to help them reconnect to their mind, body, soul, and realize that everything they either think they're lacking, that they need healing from, that they're struggling with, all suffering, all physical sickness, is all just an expression of disconnection from self, which is why our mission is to help people reconnect to the
Hmm.
self.
So I have many questions from this, but the first one that comes to my mind is why microdosing and not this big ceremonies? Like, because I've done a little bit of both, right? And there's a lot of these peak experiences that happen in the ceremony. I have done much less of microdosing,
Yeah.
so I'm just curious why for you the path is microdosing, or maybe it's both.
It's both. We actually just
Okay.
had a retreat last weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we do Entheos retreats as well. We had 13 women come out for Mother's Day weekend. It just happened to work out to be a women's only retreat.
Okay.
And we had four, me and three of my brothers, hold space for these 13 women. So it was really beautiful, the masculine feminine dynamic, allowing the feminine to be held by men in that space,
Mm.
because there's so many stories of unsafety between men
Mm.
and women. And that was all under the Entheos umbrella. And so we took people through a guided journey. I think seven or eight of the 13 was their first time ever in that experience.
Yeah.
Those are very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Those are required. I've sat in a couple hundred ceremonies myself over the last
Okay.
8 years of doing this work, and I'm very devoted and dedicated to this path. Not just mushrooms, but all of the medicines. I've sat with traditions and elders from Mexico, Peru, and Costa Rica,
Mm.
learning the indigenous ways that have carried these medicines for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And I have a belief that the most powerful dose is the least effective dose. Meaning, a lot of times when we do these big journeys, we're going into the depths and shadows of ourselves.
Yeah.
We're quite literally, Socrates nailed it when he said this 2,500 years ago. The whole purpose of life is to know thyself.
Mm.
And those deep journeys really help you get to the root and core of who you are. It teaches you how to surrender. It
Mm.
teaches you how to trust yourself. It shows you how powerful and strong you are when you're navigating the depths of a really psychologically or emotionally difficult process.
Yeah.
And then you come out the other side, you get to know yourself, of how you held yourself in that process. There's so much power and potency. And for a lot of people too, it's also digging up that really deep trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It's that stuff that's been buried so deep in the shadows that anything that we shove down or we don't feel or we ignore is going to manifest in a shadowy way because it wants to be known. And this is why a lot of people, they play out their traumatized patterns through projection, through trigger, through reaction to other people around them, because they don't know that part of themselves. That's what the bigger journeys are for, is really scooping to the bottom of the barrel. My first time meeting God was on 5 grams of mushrooms. There's a reason why those are called mystical, and some people even say religious experiences. And the most difficult part of that is integrating that experience into your life. Like, what did these entheogens, what did these medicines show me about myself that I then go get to integrate into my life? And so this is the power and potency of microdosing, is it's real-time integration. A lot of times when I go through these big experiences and journeys, it's going to take me 6 months to integrate some of those lessons or unwind something it showed me. But when I microdose, I am so much more aware and tuned and present to myself in the moment that I get to make choices that are aligned with how I want to live in real time. And so stepping back for a second on how I think microdosing works, because I think this is really important on pointing to that, is microdosing is the practice of reconnecting to the mind, body, soul. So what is the mind, body, soul? In my opinion, the mind is our awareness. It's the awareness of our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors, our choices, our patterns. And when we are disconnected from the mind, then mental rumination starts to kick in. Thoughts spin, you can't keep up with them, it's loud, it's noisy, or you're living in a triggered state, which is the shadow expression of a disconnected mind. I get triggered at people, right? I'm being victim to life. And so a trigger, in my definition, is anything outside of me that has the capacity to control my emotional experience or state of being. This is trigger. Somebody cuts me off, it's like, what the? It's like, whoa, actually, that's not a big deal. It can be. And so when we're reconnected to the mind through the power of microdosing, rather than being triggered, we notice the part of us that wants to be triggered. Well, I'm noticing myself wanting to be triggered in this moment. I'm noticing, wow, I'm still making choices that aren't aligned with how I want to live my life. Wow, I didn't realize I talked to myself that way. I didn't realize I didn't enjoy being around these people. That reconnection to the mind, to our awareness, helps us be aware of how we're already living life, which gives you the opportunity to gain the gift of a connected mind, which is choice. I have choice in how I react. I have choice in engaging in patterns or behaviors that no longer serve me. So that's the mind. The body is our emotions. Gabor Mate has done a lot of beautiful and incredible work on this, where he's essentially shown that all of our sickness is an emanation of trapped emotions in the body. And so when we're disconnected from the body, we live in a diseased state. Cancer, disease, autoimmune disorder, injury. This is all language the body is speaking that we forgot how to listen to. And so sickness is not a bad thing. It's actually the most benevolent thing that your body can do. Because when we learn to speak the language of the body, we start to look at these things that we've called symptoms are actually signals of spiritual disconnection. And so it's looking at the body, and it's like, is it left side feminine, right side masculine? What energy center is it in? And we bring in chakras in this. We bring in energy centers. What organ is speaking to you? This is more traditional Chinese medicine. The organs hold certain emotions. In a story I can go into another day, but I had cancer in my right lung that ayahuasca showed me, and it was all the grief that hadn't been processed from my dad leaving and sexual trauma inside of my church when I was younger. Once I processed all the grief, the cancer no longer existed within my lung, right? So there's the body represents our emotional capacity. So when we microdose, we reconnect to that emotional body, the stuff that we don't allow ourselves to feel enough: joy, pleasure, happiness, ecstasy, the high vibrational states, and the stuff we avoid: grief, anger, rage, disappointment, the stuff we suppress. So when we microdose and we reconnect to the body, we get to experience what it is to be human, the both peak and lower states, which allows us to process what the body is holding on to, which is what healing is. It's the processing of the stagnated energy. Energy or emotions are meant to be energy in motion. And so when we don't move the energy of emotions through our body, they get stuck and rigid. So think of cancer. It's a metastasized energy. Everything is energy brought into a slow enough state, a slow enough vibration that it actualizes. It is the literal representation of stagnation, of disconnection from the self. Cancer is the most benevolent thing our body produces. But instead we live in a world like, fuck cancer, right? We've made it the enemy. And by making it the enemy, we further separate ourselves from the emotions that want to be felt, with where the cancer is being held.
Mm.
And so I can look at somebody's body, where they have cancer, what they're experiencing, and I can tell you exactly what has happened to them without knowing anything about their life.
Mm.
Because the body speaks a language, and that language doesn't change whether it's you or me.
Mm.
And so it's remembering what that language is. And so microdosing helps us get back to speaking that language, listening to the body, processing the emotions that the body's hanging on to. And lastly, the soul is the heart.
Mm.
Because through the heart is how you access the soul. And the soul is responsible for our meaning and our purpose and living a life of authenticity. You know, David Hawkins in his Scales of Consciousness has done a lot of beautiful work on the measurement of the frequency of human emotions, and authenticity is the highest thing we can measure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because there's only one thing like you on this planet, and there will only ever be one thing like you on this planet, which is what makes authenticity so delicious. Is when someone is in their authentic expression, there's nothing like it.
Mm.
So everyone's like, I want to watch that show.
Mm.
Because it's so enticing, it's so fresh, it's so new, it's so authentic.
So unique. Yeah.
And so when we connect to the heart, which is where the soul is to be found, we remember what our purpose is here.
Mm.
It gives life meaning again, because before you and I took our first breath, our soul knew exactly what path we were meant to walk in this life. And the journey of the human experience, in my opinion, is just remembering what it is to walk that path. What is our service? We are all here to be of service to each other. And when we really touch into what it is to be of service, all of a sudden there's a lightness to life. We realize that I'm just here to get out of my own way to serve you and serve you and serve you at the best capacity I can. And that map, that blueprint of who you are meant to be in this life is found in the heart.
Mm.
And so when we use microdosing, it clears this fog of distortion that we live in that prevents us from being ourselves. We live in Terence McKenna, shout out Terence, one of the OGs and godfathers of the psychedelic movement, especially around mushrooms. He always talked about culture is not your friend.
Mm.
Because culture is the very thing that takes you out of being you.
Mm.
And so the practice of the soul, the practice of the heart when we microdose is coming back into what is my most authentic expression? Who am I meant to be in this life? What is my gift? What is my art?
Mm-hmm.
And through that expression, I can live my most full and meaningful life.
Yeah.
So that's the power of microdosing, is that
Yeah.
it's reconnecting us to the mind, body, soul.
Wow.
All through the purpose of finding God through being who we are.
Mm. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna cut this part. Awesome.
Do your thing.
Okay, cool. That's great. I really think it's such a beautiful mission. Like, I feel when you speak, I feel this need to be like, how can I make it happen? That like you actually bring this into the world, you know? Especially like even thinking for myself, I'm like, wow, like having a more connected mind in the way that you defined it, just being able to see yourself before you react, and like even like understand what's happening with our bodies. We're like, our life is so fast, and then our souls, and our heart. Like, I feel like maybe because of the way culture is, it's just, I find it the hardest things to be authentic.
Yeah.
And then the question that was coming to my mind is, there's a purpose or a goal, a strategy to culture, and it's kind of how we understand each other collectively. Could we create a culture that actually fosters authenticity? It doesn't have to be a contradiction, or does it?
I think we already have a culture that fosters authenticity.
Okay.
Here's the beautiful thing about life is life is experience between the polarities of existence. We cannot know good without evil. We cannot know hot without cold.
Yeah.
And so we cannot know the masculine without the feminine. On and on and on. We cannot know the present moment without the past and future. And so it's like all of the experience of life is held within the polarities of itself. And inside of those polarities, we have choice constantly in how we want to look at things and relate to things.
Yeah.
And so to say that we live in a culture that doesn't foster authenticity also comes with the exact mirror of that, which is the polarity, which is that we can only know that it doesn't foster authenticity by the possibility that authenticity can be fostered. And it's about that choice.
Yeah.
I was in finance for 12 years. I graduated high school, went to business school like a good little boy, like society told me I should because I had good grades and I
Yeah.
was good at talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
I got out. I worked at JP Morgan and BlackRock. I was in the belly of the biggest devils and beasts there are. And I made a fuck ton of money for 12 years of my life. And I did everything that society told me I should do, but I was miserable because I wasn't being me. And because of this mission, September 22nd, 2022, I had a panic attack. I quit my job on the spot and I sold my house a month later, put all my money into this mission because this is of me. I don't do this unless I experience the polarity of what it was like to not be me.
Mm.
Right? It's the very thing that gave
Wow.
me the fruits of everything that I'm doing now. And in culture, I'm able to be the most authentic expression of me because of the beauty of what it is to be in culture. It's this culture builds this symbiosis between each other where whether right or wrong, we're trying to fit in to create this structure that all of us can thrive within. There's a lot of beauty in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if I fit into the structure but myself? I can still utilize the tools and recognize, and there's moments I dip into the matrix and the culture as well, and like there's all these beautiful things that can come of it, but at the end of the day I have choice in all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime we assume we don't have choice, we become victim.
Yeah. Mm.
And being a victim is the very thing that the matrix, the cabal, all these terminologies that are thrown around to keep us in victim states, it all just denies that I have a choice in every moment to listen to the whispers of my heart, to listen to the whispers of the mind that are guiding me towards the most authentic expression that I can be, or I can choose right now not to be that too.
Where do you find the strength to make that choice? Because sometimes those choices are hard.
Sometimes there's this assumption I feel because I made it for so long that like that strength is like there it is. It's something that's built upon. It's in the micro decisions. It's in the micro moments. It's in, I would imagine this is an edge for you to start this thing in your home. And it's like you made a choice to confront the part of you that is afraid of doing this.
Yeah.
Because in making that decision, one of many micro millions of decisions that we get to make, you're this much closer to your most authentic expression because you're trusting the whisper. Something in you is like, I want to do this. And you're like, I don't know how, but we're going to do it. And it's like, that is how we build that strength. It's not this moment that all of a sudden I wake up and I've arrived.
Yeah.
Oh, all that work, I never have to worry about anything again. It's like that's part of the falsities. There is no destination. And one of the things I teach in my cohorts is I don't think that there's some place that we end up where all of a sudden all of these stories that want to keep us small and victimized go away. We just get really good at holding them. I still have scarcity stories come up. I still have worthiness stories come up. I still have fear come up. I still have doubt come up. But I've gotten so good at holding and knowing myself through those that even when they come up, I'm going to show up anyway. I'm going to do the thing anyway. And now when I receive that signal of fear, I know that that is exactly the thing I have to do in this life. Because in my belief, fear is a benevolent act of the heart. Because every time we step through fear, we find our freedom. And so what's more loving than that? And so it's just learning how to get so comfortable in the discomfort that nothing has power over you anymore. And it's those micro decisions that build the strength. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah. No, that makes sense because you have been telling me about the new paradigm that you're fully stepping in with your company and with your whole life. And the thing that has come to my attention is like that requires a lot of strength in making the choice to step in the new paradigm. So yeah, I would love to hear how you came to do, like, I know you're doing your business donation based, like what does it imply, how does it work, and how do you decide to fully step in?
One of the things that I want to clarify, just for the frequency of what it represents, we're not a business.
That's true.
So we're a spiritual sanctuary held within trust. So nobody owns anything. And compared to in the business world, it's all about ownership. This is mine. That's not, these equity pieces and stocks and there is no ownership in the world of trust. And so we are a sanctuary held within trust. I am a trustee. Co-trustee is my my brother Dr. Thomas Maxey in this, and we are stewards of this mission. And one of the things that I was so deeply instructed on doing is doing everything within this mission donation based,
Mm-hmm.
because it confronts every aspect of everything I knew. I lived in the world of finance.
Mm-hmm.
12 years I was part of perpetuating this debt slave matrix that we live in.
Mm.
Because the more debt people have, the more it keeps them in survival. The more in survival they are, the more they live in fear. The more in fear they are, the more manipulatable they are.
Mm-hmm.
That is how the power structures stay as they are.
Yeah.
And this isn't power structures as government or people. It's the system. It's banking. It's finance. It's religion. It's government. It's any system that says you need me in order for you to feel okay about yourself. That
Mm-hmm.
is creating a victimized, fear-based system.
Yeah.
Obviously, we live in that now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was so clearly instructed on doing is bringing about a new possibility of an economic future.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've chosen to go donation based across the board. Now this started with just the medicines, just the microdoses.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first made this choice probably about a year and a half ago now, it was difficult because we recommend $70 per pack,
Mm-hmm.
and we were letting people pay as little as $0, but it costs us $25 in costs to produce and grow and manufacture and distribute, and that doesn't even include our time that's being poured into it. So we were literally giving away thousands of dollars in offerings every month to make sure people had access. But then I had this idea of like, okay, what if we also gave people the ability to donate on top of what they ordered? And up until that point, we asked 70. Our average unit was coming in around 51, 55, 57. It was like we were losing 20, 30% of our revenue, right? There's no better words for it.
Yeah.
Per offering. And then in November rather, I gave people the opportunity to add a donation on top of the 70 if they wanted to support the mission. And a really beautiful thing happened in December. December was the first full month where we were able to see the data from both people paying whatever they chose to pay and donating on top of it. And at the end of the month, I got all the data, got all the info, and our average unit came in at $70.33. Virtually on the nose of what our recommended donation price is.
Yeah.
And that was with 38% of people paying less.
Yeah.
Almost every 4 out of 10 orders pay less.
Yeah.
And of that 38%, 36, 38, it's right in that range. I always forget if it's 6 or 8. Right in that range, almost half of those pay the minimum. And so we're talking about 10 to 15% of our orders pay virtually nothing for it. It costs us money. And yet we still came in at $70, almost flush, 33 cents over. And that 33 cents means so much more than it does on paper, because what it reflected to me is community is going to support each other. If we speak to the mission, if we trust and we surrender, every single one of us, and this is for anybody that owns a business or doing anything out there, we're receiving these whispers that are guiding us towards how we're meant to serve.
Yeah.
But then our fear comes up. I can't do that. That doesn't make sense. And so I'm in this place of just trusting so deeply that I would not be given this guidance in this direction if it wasn't meant to be this way. And the community showed me that it can work. And every single month since, so we've now had, after May, it'll be 6 months of data. We've been plus or minus $3 of that $70 mark. After before being so low, because the community supports each other. Because as you said, the more I speak to it, like, hey, here's the mission. And I trust that if I serve this way and it dies, it's because the mission was meant to die. But that's not for me to make that decision. I am not Entheos. Entheos is not of me, it is through me. I literally relate to this entity as just ideas in general. Ideas are their own force, they're their own being. And so they choose people who are meant to bring them to life because they want to exist no different than you and I. And so this entity of Entheos, it's its own life form. I've just been chosen as the vessel that it gets to represent through. And so the more I deeply I listen to it, and it's working. We are 100% donation based, and we are thriving. We don't limit anybody on
Yeah.
their orders, on getting access to this product, and we are thriving because 59% of people last year said they didn't get the mental health care treatment they wanted because of finances. People are
Yeah.
suffering,
Yeah.
and money is the obstacle to the healing. I'm not going to be the person that tells them no.
Yeah.
And just last week, actually, so I run these cohorts as well, these 8-week cohorts called Microdosing in the Mind, Body, Soul. And so I teach
Yeah.
people about these medicines, how to reconnect to the mind, body, soul. And it's probably the most beautiful work I've ever done. It's really
Mm.
incredible. And I got the ping last week to do the cohorts donation based as well.
Mm.
So before it was $500 for an 8-week cohort, 2 to 4 hour weekly calls, a group chat, weekly practices, daily contemplation prompts, a community. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
That was already a very accessible price.
Mm.
And I kept receiving this whisper, go donation based. I was like, next time.
Yeah.
Go donation based. It slowly gets louder and louder and louder. And finally last week, I was like, fuck it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if I am in service for the sake of service. Do I trust that God has my back? Do I trust that it'll be taken care of? And so I opened it up for donation based last year, where people can pay as little as $1 to join this 8-week cohort. That if I were to charge and money was an object, I'd probably charge $2,000 for it.
Yeah.
People could pay as little as $1 now. And since then, I've had 30 people pay $1. And there's only 100 spots, and so it's limited. But I also raised the top end price to give people the option if you want to support. And is the people that have paid $1, I've had 9 people come in and pay the full 800 now.
Mm.
And it's because when we trust and we speak to the mission of the heart, it's going to be reflected back to us. Our reality is just a mirror of what we believe is possible in this life.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I am being called to steward a new economic model into the future. And I'm not saying that this would work for everybody. It's easy when it's an offering, when it's a product-based type of service.
Mm.
And I'm doing it with a coaching cohort, and it's still working.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's ways that we can navigate a new way of relating where money isn't the obstacle. It actually becomes the doorway for everybody to get help. And more than anything, I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. As I'm hearing you, what I'm wondering is, what's the source of your faith?
Oh, what a great question. I grew up really Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I, church twice a week for many of those years, youth camps every year. And I never found the faith. I never found faith there. God never made sense to me inside of those institutions, because it was always my experience of religion is it's drenched in so much guilt, shame, and fear.
Mm.
And the God I know isn't guilting, shaming, or fearing.
Mm.
And I left the church essentially in my early 20s, and then big party phase for the next 10 years of my life, where it almost felt like this rebellion against God.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want anything to do with anything. And then after psychedelics found their way into my life, my first time microdosing, I was 29 years old on the beach in San Diego, and it was the thing that woke me up. It really helped me through that reconnection of mind, body, soul, through the presencing, the quieting of the mind. I was able to be like, wow, I hate my life. It was a hard thing for me to admit at that time of my life. Partying a lot, sleeping around, doing drugs, on 5 different pharmaceuticals, working 16 hours a day, like all the stuff that on the outside, it's like, this should make you happy.
Yeah.
And I knew I hated my life, but I couldn't grab it. And then that first time microdosing, when all the noise quieted, I was like, damn, I can't run from this knowing. I can't unsee what I saw. Like, I do not like the way I'm living my life. It was the greatest gift because it started me on this path. About a year later is when I had my first deep, intentional, guided psychedelic experience. And it shattered all of the notions of what I thought God was. It for the first time in my life, I felt God. I meditated with God. I met God. I was received by God. I literally felt like I was welcomed into the kingdom of heaven, not in the way the Bible taught me. A kingdom of heaven that felt this knowingness that it's within me, as Jesus stated himself. It's not going to be delivered to me by a man on stage giving his interpretation by a Bible and a doctrine that we know, Council of Trent, Council of Nicaea, we know empirically that it has been edited over and over again. How many times have it been edited that we don't know about? So it was this it was this gnosis that came over me of like, oh, I don't need anything outside of me to help me understand my relationship to God, because God is of me. I am of it. I am of the all of the infinite creation that we get to live in. That was the doorway that opened and really brought me on this last 8 years of my life, this journey of finding what is God to me. And God is everything. God is this chair. It is you. It is this conversation. It is our words. It is the flower. It's the leaves. God is everything, because God is the infinite all. And to experience itself, it's created this experience of self, to know itself, which is why we can only know God by going within. And so this is what Socrates is pointing to. Knowing thyself is the entire journey, because the more in you go, the more you realize that we are all connected. We are of everything, of that divine influence. And so to go back to the question, I found my faith through the use of these medicines. By breaking down the dogmatic structures and rigidity of doctrines that were given to me that were based in fear, shame, and guilt. And by allowing myself to put those down and finding my own path, I feel like I have such a beautiful and pure and whole and true relationship with God that I don't need anybody outside of myself to explain to me anymore.
Yeah. Can you describe the process of going within with the purpose of finding God? Because it could easily be confused with, I'm going to think about myself and then like figure out your own preferences or maybe some healing, but which are important. But what's the process to find God?
Yeah, when you say process, I just go back to the art of spirituality. It's a practice, and it gets to look different for all of us. For mine, I spend the first 45 minutes of my day in prayer. Yeah. I find God in that prayer. I make sure I walk in nature every day. I find God in nature. I have the most vulnerable and intimate conversations with my friends, because the more I get to know them and allow myself to be seen, the more I see God in all of it. And this is the thing that I think leads to so much sickness of the mind, is we're so afraid to speak about the truth of our experience in life. We're afraid to own the parts of us that feel shaming and guilting and fearful, and putting ourselves on display. When I do that, when I allow myself to be seen for exactly who and where I am, I find God. And it's the know thyself concept, to touch on that as well. The deeper I go into myself, the more I'm willing to meet parts of myself that I once feared, the more I can see those parts in other people and have compassion and empathy. The more I'm able to hold space, because it's like, I know what it's like to be on that journey. And I see you in that journey. And everything you're doing in that journey is so perfect. And it's building that trust with self. Most people spend their life in avoidance. They don't want to look. They don't want to admit to themselves that they have thoughts every day of self-hate. They don't want to admit to themselves that every time they look at the mirror, they hate their bodies. They feel shameful of who they are. They feel shameful of their sexuality. They walk around feeling guilt about every interaction they have. They apologize constantly. Most people can't even see that that's the reality that they live in. When you start to accept those parts of yourself as the beautiful things they are, because those parts are only making themselves known so that you can be with them, so you can learn to hold yourself in it. That is what self-love is, and love is God. And so when we start to own and acknowledge these parts of ourselves and love ourselves in totality of who I am and where I am in all moments for all of time, I get to touch the frequency of God, which is love. And so again, everything is just informing me about who I am in all moments. When I start to look at that information and accept it, then I get to start to find that self-love, which is the pathway to finding God within.
And you recognize it by its frequency.
Everything's frequency.
Yeah.
Everything. And this, I don't want to spin too much on this because it would be a whole combo on it, but the gene keys, talks about how we're attracting everything from the frequency that we hold in our DNA. DNA is the very information that creates life, and we're attracting everything from the frequency held within our DNA. In my perspective of life, like this very reality I'm living in right now, completely separate from you, everything in my field is just reflecting me back to me in some way.
Mm.
And so I can use the field to understand who am I based on the frequency in which I'm attracting everything from. Do I attract people that I think are talking shit, friends that don't have my back? Bad things always happen to me. There's no luck in my life. Accidents, getting if that is what my reality is mirroring to me, then that's just a reflection of who I actually am.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, I want to point out, no, they're the right. I'm confirming the frequency of victim that's being held within myself, which is why I'm attracting things to mirror back to me that I'm a victim.
Yeah.
Everything is frequency. It's no different than like if I'm in the frequency of abundance, I never have to worry about money in my life, regardless of how much money is in my account. It's not about a figure, it's about a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be obsessed with how much money I could have at all times because that created this falsity of safety in my life. Now it doesn't matter how much money is in my account. I know I am taken care of. I know I am protected. I know I am guided
Mm.
because I live in the frequency of abundance. So anything I ever need that is in alignment to the highest expression I'm meant to live will be in my field when I need it. I've seen way too many miracles to know that's not true. And so everything is about the frequency that we're attracting from and the frequency that we're holding within. And when we can start to look at our own individual realities and start to use that as the mirror of like, oh, I actually don't like that outside. Well, that's just pointing to something I'm harboring and holding inside.
Mm-hmm.
What a gift that I can notice in that way. What a gift I have the opportunity to meet myself in that way. And then from that standpoint, there's this hermetic principle called the principle of vibration. It's that everything moves, nothing rests.
Mm.
And so from that perspective, frequency, we're only ever increasing or only ever decreasing frequency. It's never stagnated.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's looking at every single choice and decision and environment, everything in your life. Is this increasing my frequency or lowering it? The music you listen to, the clothes you wear, with
Mm.
the items in your home. I moved about a year ago and I decided to throw away everything in my kitchen that was commercial. And I started ordering stuff off Etsy, handmade
Mm.
by a grandma in Ukraine or a father and son. So it's like they built that things with their hand through love. That item carries a
Mm.
frequency to it.
Wow.
And so it's like the things I wash my dishes with. Am I using a plastic sponge produced in a factory with all these chemicals? Or am I using something that's handmade with these natural bristles and fibers that's been poured into by love of somebody that's made this their life mission to provide this quality ingredient? And then I'm cleaning a plate that was handmade by a friend of mine here in
Wow.
Austin. All of that carries frequency.
Mm.
And so it's like my food only ever touches high frequency items in my kitchen,
Mm.
which means my food gets to stay in that state. I know my farmers. I know the land that all the fruits and vegetables I eat are from. I know where
Wow.
the cows in my freezer are from.
Mm.
Everything carries frequency. And so it's paying such close attention to what we feel when we're engaging in things,
Mm.
environments that we're in, people that we're around. And if we can be so attuned to the noticing, like, oh, I actually don't feel good in this. Oh, I feel really good around these people. I don't feel good when I wear these clothes. I feel great when I starting to know those things. We attract more of it when we keep ourselves in those states.
Wow. That's super interesting. As you said, we could like talk about that for like
Mm-hmm.
hours. One thing I wanted to come back to that we started talking before we recorded, that I think is a nice follow up from this is how do you pray? What is prayer for you?
I pray in multiple ways.
Yeah.
So every morning I wake up, I have an altar in my bedroom, and I sit at my altar and I light a candle. Fire, the element of fire is really beautiful for transmutation.
Mm.
And I have these 8 written prayers that I have where I read those every single day. And so one's about clearing the energy from my body, like really grounding me in, rooting me into the present moment, clearing any density in my field, anything remaining from my dream state. Um, and then I have all these other ones, a prayer of remembering. And so it's this prayer that takes me almost 12, 13 minutes to read about who am I in this life? How
Mm.
do I want to be seen? How do I want to walk? What is my integrity? What is my mission? What is my
And
purpose?
you wrote that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's been something I've written and rewritten over the last 4 years. I have this men's cohort I lead where I teach other men how to build their own prayer of remembering. And it's a prayer of it's a really beautiful practice because it's both a being and becoming. I can only ever write something from the perspective of what I believe about myself, and I can touch a version of myself I desire to be. So I'm writing from who I believe me to be now, as well as who I see myself as, and it's reflexive in that prayer. And so I would say every other time I read it, I'm making changes and edits and additions to it, because it's a living and breathing document that like mirrors me. I was in a relationship, and last year she said something about she didn't think I was considerate. She goes, I don't feel like you consider me in some of these big decisions and how I would feel. And I'm like, oh, that's not how I want to show up in this life. So I wrote a prayer. I wrote a section into my prayer. I'm considerate. I'm considerate about people in my life that may be affected by my decisions. Right. And so I have this whole paragraph around like, now, because that is something I desire to breathe, I wrote that into my prayer. And this goes into safety, into my service, into my purpose, into my mission, into my intention, my integrity. This prayer is reflective of me. So I have one for that. I have a prayer of remembering her, which is the woman that I'm calling in. I have this prayer of knowing the frequency of her and what a relationship is. And so that anything that doesn't show up that's not that, it's an instant no, right? Because I spend so much time in this prayer of remembering her. I know what the frequency of that is. So I have these 8 different prayers that map out my life. What my service is, cleansing this body, about wealth and abundance. I read those 8 prayers to start my day every day. I start my day with a meditation, and then I go into these prayers. And then I just openly pray. Like, what's alive? And prayer is such an intricate, and I've had a really interesting journey with it. Up until a year ago, I couldn't say the word prayer because I felt like religion took something from me.
Yeah.
Even God. It was difficult for me to say God and prayer.
Yeah.
And so over the last year, I've been in a reclamation of those words. Like, wait, I get to choose what those mean for me. It's as simple as that. And in my abstinence from God, I would use like source and universe and cosmos and all these supplemental words that aren't actually describing the all. There's a reason that the word God is so polarized because of the charge and the potency it has based on the belief that the collective consciousness has about it.
Yeah.
And now prayer is one of my favorite things in the world. And through this reclamation and realizing that I get to choose what prayer means for me, I get to choose how to pray. And so it's both. I have these written ones I read every day because I want to imbue the frequency of those in my life. And then after I say those, sometimes I'll pray right there in the moment. Typically, it's when I'm walking with my dog. I have no distractions. It's me and my dog in nature. And I just pray for what's alive. I pray for my family. I pray for Entheos. I pray for all of the allies in my field. I'll have these random people coming to my field. John Bingham, shout out John Bingham. He's a friend from elementary school. I probably haven't talked to this kid in 20 years. And there was this, I'd say about a month ago, every day for a week, he came into my field. Maybe he just needed some praying. Maybe that man is going through something that I will never know. It's just like, I pray for John. I pray for his well-being, for his purpose, for his joy, for his peace. I pray that he feels like he can be the most authentic expression of him to live the life that brings him the most peace and joy. And that's it. And then I'll just move on. Like, what else is coming into my field? And the act of that prayer, it's praying in that way, rather, is teaching me how to be present with what is, to listen to the whispers. Because if I'm a vessel to be of service to the collective, then God is working through me, which means I just need to notice what's alive in every moment. That is part of what prayer is. What's alive?
Yeah.
And trusting in that has made it a really beautiful practice for me.
Yeah. I'm curious. You said you don't. Maybe I misunderstood it earlier. You don't pray for things. So I'm recently exploring prayer as well. That's the reason why I'm curious. And the curiosity that I have is like, does it work? And if I were not to pray for, oh, I need this or I want this, then how would I know that it's working?
There's even something, feeling the frequency of working.
Yeah.
We need it to be something, right?
Yeah.
With that, the energy is there's what's the best word here? There's a
trying to get something.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not what prayer is for. we're not trying to get anything, because the second we infuse the energy of getting, we have inserted expectation
Mm-hmm.
to the outcome, which means we're not living in trust. We're not in surrender.
Mm.
And so the way prayer is, it's not that I don't pray for specific. I pray for energy. For example, like when I'm praying for Entheos, I pray for the safety and protection of Entheos. I pray that Entheos is made and attracts all the abundance, wealth, and prosperity it needs to serve those that serve it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not praying for an outcome or a number. I'm just praying that this thing brings enough of prosperity for all of the people that are giving their time and attention and integrity to this mission. I just want them to be supported.
Yeah.
I don't care what that number is. So I'm still praying for the fruits of the mission to succeed. I don't need to be a billionaire off this thing.
Mm-hmm.
If the people that take care of Entheos are taken care of, I haven't taken a dime from Entheos in 10 months.
Mm.
It's also been the biggest test of my life. Of like, what does something look like if we're in service for the sake of service?
Mm.
And I continue to be made whole. I continue to be made abundant and prosperous. And so there's this thing where it's like, I'm praying for the wealth and prosperity of Entheos, but not for a selfish reason.
Mm.
I want those that are giving their time to this mission to make them taken care of. So that's what I mean by prayer. It's like, what is the frequency in which I'm praying for something?
Yeah.
Am I attached to an expectation or outcome? And this kind of starts right before we hit record. It's like the thing that's changed everything about prayer for me is pray and then trust that everything that happens from that moment forward is an answer to that prayer.
Mm.
And so this goes back to like, if I pray for wealth, prosperity, and abundance for Entheos, and Entheos fails to exist, that is exactly what is meant to happen. It was not in the highest and best for me to spend my time serving a mission that wasn't in alignment to my highest need. And the more I let go of those expectations, the more things in my life flourish.
Yeah.
Because I'm trusting what God wants to happen. I'm not trying to force my hand upon God.
Yeah. How do you get there? Because I know that you love Entheos. So I'm like, how can you love this mission so much and be ready for it to not happen if that's what is meant to be? How do you get there?
Service, like the frequency of service, it's what I believe that we're all here for. And so if anybody is like looking for their purpose in life, find how you want to be of service. And because I've been blessed with what it feels like to be in service to other people, I trust that if this isn't meant to exist, it's because my service is just being redirected elsewhere. But I get to stay in the frequency of that, which is all that matters to me.
Yeah.
And so it's detaching from the expectation, this is my service. And I've had dreams and visions that are, I'll just say it.
Yeah.
In a medicine ceremony with my partner about 2.5 years ago, I had a vision that Entheos will be the Pfizer of the new world. We're going to look back in 50 years and wonder, what the fuck were we doing pharmaceuticals? They are, and I believe that pharmaceuticals started as benevolent, but anytime you bastardize nature is going to fight back. And so our bodies can't recognize these chemicals that we're putting in, which is why they create all these side effects. It takes 2 to 4 minutes at the end of a pharmaceutical commercial to read the list of side effects.
Yeah.
You know how many side effects are of psilocybin mushrooms? Virtually zero.
Wow.
Of 140 compounds tested, it is the safest thing we've ever ingested in our bodies.
Wow.
If that's not people are comparing that to something that takes me 4 minutes to read the list of side effects. That comes with the 40-page brochure. And so what are we doing? Right? And so I believe that the future of medicine is going to come back to the earth. The earth has everything we need. The Amazon is the greatest pharmacy in the entire world. Everything we need is already being presented in its perfect, most harmonious state by nature, of nature, through nature. That this is what I believe the mission of Entheos will become, is teaching people a new way of coming back to themselves and healing. And If that vision doesn't come true, I'm released of the expectation of that, because it means I'm being called to an even bigger vision where it's like, use me how I'm meant to be used. And so I always go back to service. If I attach my expectation to something, I'm not living in service.
Yeah, no, I can feel it, because as you say, everything's a frequency. And then when you mention like, oh, like it's not about your goal that you're trying to get, it's about being of service, then it's like it's easy to go like full, like be fully committed
Yeah.
and surrender at the same time. Do you do this for your personal life, or is it like a little bit more personal for like certain things that you might want for yourself?
This is how I live in general.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And and I don't want to make it seem like it's been a very hard path to get here,
Okay.
right? A
Yeah.
lot of deep work, a lot of
Yeah.
deep trust. And one of the things I always go back to is every time, like me in this moment, both of us,
Yeah.
we're okay right now. We're safe.
Yeah.
Everything is great. I'm fed. I don't have a need for thirst. Like I'm
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Which means every single time in my entire life that I didn't think I was okay was a lie.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm okay now, it means I've always been
Yeah. That's
okay. And that level of trust is where I desire everybody to get to. Is that level of detachment over what's happening in the moment, that right now I feel like I'm at the verge of death. I am collapsing. I am feeling and processing so much grief. I don't know what to do with it. I'm in such a fear state that I don't know if I'm going to be okay tomorrow, if I'm going to have food on my table. I feel alone. I have no people in my life. That's exactly where you're meant to be. And the more we can trust in the perfection of all things, that whatever's alive is wanting to be known and move through us, nothing in life can impact you anymore. Because it's about living in a radical place of acceptance and surrender to all that is. And this is another thing psychedelics has helped me with.
mm.
I've had not have had, the most difficult experiences of my life have been in psychedelic ceremony.
Mhm.
And in those, I've learned how to hold myself. I've learned how to trust. I've learned how to grieve and process and feel. I've felt fear at levels that I don't prey upon anybody, and I'm so grateful for. I've tripped into moments of psychosis. I've literally lost my mind. And it's the greatest things that have ever happened to me, because now I get to live in this existence and be like, wow, there's nothing that can come at me I don't trust is the highest and best for me in all moments for all of time.
Wow. So even the moment of psychosis actually led to something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what is really inspiring about hearing you talk is that I can tell that you have been in those really dark moments, both in psychedelics and outside of psychedelics. And sometimes when I listen to people that are like saying that they live in a certain way that seems like a higher frequency than the one I'm living, I wonder, have they actually suffered?
Mm.
And maybe the answer is yeah, a
Mm.
lot. How do you think they got there?
Mm-hmm.
And like, but I feel like when you talk about the dark places and the loneliness and the grief, I'm just like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. And that's inspiring, because I feel that I've been in those places and probably will be. And sometimes I lose some hope that I can be a person who would be in acceptance and surrender even during those times.
Mm.
Like I still have some resistance towards like going there and fully embracing it. And I think that's the thing that is keeping me from trusting,
Mm-hmm.
because there are like spaces in the possibility of realities that I'm like have some resistance. So I'm not as open. But yeah, maybe more psychedelics, maybe microdosing. It seems really, yeah, inspiring that could be a way to get there.
And that's the important thing. It's a way.
Anyway, yeah.
There's not, I have chosen this path. This
Yeah.
path has taught me the most. I know people that have never done psychedelics that live in very expanded consciousness states.
Yeah.
Meditation is a beautiful way. Breath work
Yeah.
is a beautiful way. Prayer is a beautiful way.
Mm.
There is no right or wrong way to the path of, I use this word very loosely, but enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
Which I just consider a state of peace.
Yes. Yeah.
That it does not matter what's happening around me. I can maintain a state of resonance and peace because I trust. I
Yeah.
trust in the all. And there's a thing I say to my community and the people I work with often is you have to let yourself fucking break. You have to let yourself break so deeply into the fear and grief to levels that you are terrified of, because in that is where you get to know yourself, where you get to feel yourself. And again, feeling into that polarity, it's like I can only ever know the peaks of ecstasy if I have touched the valleys of hell. I can only know them in the reflection of each other. And so the deeper and darker I allow myself to go, the more light I can experience on the other side.
Yeah.
And in that as well, there's this thing about like every time I go into a grief state, while I'm grieving, I try to touch the frequency of gratitude. One of my favorite quotes, shout out Peter Crone, is grief is the expression of the heart expanding its capacity to love.
Yeah.
But when we fear grief, because we've been taught to fear grief, so we suppress it and it makes us sick, we're actually disallowing ourselves to experience the depths of love that come on the other side of that grief. Because grief is a love frequency. We are grieving because of the love we feel for whatever it is that we're grieving.
Yeah.
And so that quote changed so much for me, because now I know the frequency of grief so specifically. I know the tightness I feel in my chest and where it comes up, that I'm like, okay, I'll force myself to go sit in silence for 45 minutes if I need to sometimes. I'm like, I invite this grief to come through and be felt.
Yeah.
I wait for the tears. I wait for that flush to come through me. And then once I start to feel that frequency of grief, I hold so much gratitude that I'm being presented this part of me, because I know the love I'm going to feel on the other side of it. And so you're aware of the resistance. Also be aware that if you let yourself break into the resistance, you feel exactly the opposite of that as freedom on the other side.
Yeah.
So whatever you're resisting, if you're resisting fear, you're actually resisting trust on the other side of that. If you're resisting grief, you're resisting love on the other side of that. We don't like to think of it as the outcome as well. We resist just what's alive, but we're also resisting the gift.
Yeah. Yeah, that resonates, and it felt true in my system. Like the more I'm resisting one, it's the same resistance that then goes in the other direction. Yeah. It's and I have had the lie that I've been telling myself is like, oh, it's like too much for my nervous system to go too deep into the grief. Let's just go a little bit, but not fully. And I'm feeling into it now that it's like what is hard for the nervous system is to be resistant so much, it's like so much like holding rather than like just finally releasing and finally feeling it.
Absolutely. And that is nervous system regulation. It's holding ourselves when we don't think we're able to hold ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Like we have gotten, and somatic work is incredible and it's beautiful. I'm not saying that there's not incredible work happening in there, but we have complicated what it is to regulate our nervous system. It is also of the mind. If we don't work on the stories that are creating the dysregulation, it doesn't matter how many times I do breath work and release that stagnation from the body, I'm creating more of the very thing that I'm releasing. And so nervous system regulation is all parts. It's being with the story of the mind that's creating the dysregulation. It's being with the part through the body of how it's manifesting as dysregulation. It's being with the heart, guiding us towards the deeper emotions that just want to be felt behind all of it.
Yeah.
It's all of it in one. And it's learning how to hold ourselves when we don't think we have to, or when we don't think we're able to. That's reparenting. The inner mother and father get to come online and hold the part of ourselves that's in terror, that's in fear, and just be like, it's okay for us to be exactly where we are. I'm no longer in resistance to the fear. I am no longer in resistance to the scarcity. I am no longer in resistance to the anger, to the rage, to the grief. I'm going to not only allow this to process, but get good at being the observer to my experience and reparenting myself in it. Most of us were grown up and taught not to feel. We would get hurt, and what would our parents say? Oh, it's okay, you're fine. Don't. We were literally taught, like, let's revise that language, which sounds benevolent, what it is. Yeah. Stop feeling. Nope, don't feel because I can't hold you in it. That's what our parents were doing.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know how to hold themselves, they don't know how to hold their injured child in it. And all it is holding space and being witness. It's allowing that child to feel exactly what they're feeling and ask for what they need in that moment.
Mm.
And we get to do that with ourselves in our internal landscape as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. I feel that that's gonna that's what I'm gonna do next.
It's coming.
Yeah. What are your dreams for the future of humanity?
Wow. I wouldn't even call them dreams so much as this is what I believe is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happens to coincide with what my dream and prayer for humanity is.
Mm.
But I believe that we're not going to recognize the world in 5 years. I believe that things are changing that rapidly
Mm.
that in 5 years, we're not going to recognize the financial system. We're not going to recognize the way countries operate. We're not going to recognize the way that people go about doing business. There's so much fear around AI. Let's use that as an example, and taking all the jobs. That is the greatest thing that could happen for humanity.
Mm.
AI taking up all these white collar computer jobs is the best
Yeah.
thing that can ever happen, because you're going to force people to go within and say, what do I want to do?
Mm.
There is an artist that is 20 times more talented than Picasso sitting behind a keyboard right now, plugging in numbers, doing data entry, denying her gift of art to the world. There are women right now who have gone through so much sexual trauma or parental trauma or something with their kids that continue to show up to be a receptionist every day, when her medicine is to speak to all the other women about the path she's walked to help them become free as well. And so we have so much fear around what's happening in the world, but I only see it as the greatest thing that could ever happen, because AI is going to come in and strip people away from the identities they've been given, indoctrinated into, so they can find themselves and bring that gift that they're meant to be into this life.
But then we need a different economic system or a different governance system. And that's when I started being interested in what you're doing, because I'm like, in a world without jobs, how do we do things?
I believe that's already happened. The crypto is the introduction of the new financial system. I believe that this year we're going to witness the collapse of the old system. I believe that the dollar has been very, not to get too much of a tangent, but I believe everything we're witnessing economically right now has been very, very intentionally structured to be that way. So we're going to witness the implosion of the fiat system, where there's no value attached to the printing of this money that's been used for control. And the thing about the blockchain and these future technologies that are coming is it's transparent economics. You cannot alter what is publicly listed for all things, right? I have, with the currencies and the technologies I own within the crypto space, I own those. I don't need a bank middleman to tell me I get access to my own money. And they can't create a false money. 90% of the money created in the system is created by banks off of nothing because of fractional reserve lending. All of that goes away with the introduction of these blockchain technologies, decentralized finance. And this mirrors exactly what's happening astrologically. We've exited the age of Pisces, which is about hierarchical structures, which in any sort of hierarchy structure and centralized model, we've been witness to what that world looks like. Aquarian age is about decentralized systems. It's about sovereignty-based systems, about community-based systems, regional-based systems. So we're going to go back to more local economies. And this is where it's like a part of the donation thing. I'm just feeling into a frequency of what the world is going to be in 20 years. I'm not creating something that doesn't already exist. I'm just trusting in where everything is going. And so we will bring back barter-based economies, donation-based economies, because the economy of the future, money might not be your value system, but you have value, right? The Aquarian age is also about authenticity. And another word for authenticity is utility. And so this is another thing about a lot of the crypto technologies is these technologies have utility to them. They're not just based on scarcity, which was the entire old economic model. The entire economic model we're witnessing collapse is based on scarcity and speculation, not the future economy. It's all going to be based on authenticity, which is another word for utility.
Yeah.
Because when we're an authentic expression, we all are utilizable. We all have utility because you are unique. That is going to be the same for the future of economics. And so we're going to have barter-based systems. And this is a great example. It's like these people that are paying $1 for this cohort, their gift may be going and telling 100 people about it.
Mm.
That's more than one person paying full price.
Mm.
And so their exchange might only be $1, but their testimonial might be so penetrative it attracts 1 million people to the mission. The way that their life is changed by it, they become their own teacher that impacts 1 billion people. I'm not here to figure out what that's going to be. I'm here to just trust that if I serve, that the frequency of what the new world, the Aquarian age, is supposed to represent will make itself known. And I don't believe that even economics are going to look nearly the same as we expect them to in the next 5 years.
And governance.
All of it.
Yeah.
We're witnessing governmental systems fall as well. I think we go back to regional-based economies, or governmental systems rather. We go back to more of a council type governmental approach where we're getting out of it, and I'm not saying that overnight all of this melts away, but I think the way we've seen this one singular president has control, all of that over the next 20, 50 years is going to fade away. We're going to have I believe we go back more into roundtable governance models where there's multiple voices and there's equal voices. One of the things that we do at these retreats is it's my favorite thing about retreats is we sit in something called Sacred Circle. And we do it every single day for 2 to 4 hours, however long it takes.
Yeah.
And it's the first day, everyone's getting to know each other. And so we're opening up, what are your intentions of being here? What called you? And the second day, it's like prepping for ceremony. And the third day, it's integration it's talking about what came up in the experience. And fourth day is integration. When we're in circle, everyone's an equal. I'm no longer the facilitator leading the group. I am of you, also sharing in my experience just as you are. And that is how I believe governmental systems are going to evolve in the future. If we go back to governance systems where there's multiple voices, and we all have equality within how we're represented, and that is where more voices are heard and everyone's taken care of.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Where can people learn about Entheos or hear more about you and your work?
Instagram is always the easiest way. There's the platforms we use. So my Instagram is at I am Austin West. Entheos is Entheos Holistics. So as easy as it gets there.
Yeah.
EntheosHolistics.com is our website. IamAustinWest.com is my website. So that would be the easiest ways to plug in. We have a new website launching soon where all of our events, we're going to soon be doing weekly in-person microdosing events here in Austin. We have a 3-day in-person event coming up in November this year. We do retreats, like all the stuff that people are looking for. We have a free community, over 600 members in our community now. We have 8 calls a week teaching people on this, walking people through this. So all of the resources people need, they can find through our Instagram.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much. And I hope people get inspired and also, like me, curious to check out some of the microdosing that you're doing.
Thank you for having me.